Hello, thanks for joining us today.
In this podcast, we focus on making the Bible easy to understand with references to today's world. We hope that you stay with us and enjoy our interpretations.
Let's jump in and get started. Shall we?
And that is exactly why you never, ever suggest a blood oath at a corporate retreat unless you really mean business. Seriously, Stephanie, if your boss tells you to cut a deal, you usually just sign a PDF on DocuSign. You don't head to the nearest farm, grab a heifer, a goat, and a ram, and start splitting them down the middle. That would be a very short career in HR.
John, I think you'd be the first person deplatformed if you tried that. But welcome back, everyone, to Bible in a Year, making it easier to understand. I'm Stephanie Dalton, and I'm here with John Dalton. It is day 5, and we're diving into Genesis 15, 16, and 17. John, you're already starting with the gory details, but Genesis 15 really does feel like a scene out of a dark historical drama.
It's intense. But before we get to the red carpet of animals, we have to talk about how this chapter starts. Abram has just come off this massive military victory we read about yesterday, and he's probably feeling a bit of a vulnerability hangover. He's a hero, but he's still a nomad with no heir. And God shows up in a vision and says, "Fear not, Abram, I am your shield. Your reward shall be very great."
I love that word shield. It feels so protective. But you told me during prep that there's more to it than just a piece of armor?
Oh, way more. The Hebrew word is magen. Now, in English, we think of a literal shield, like a Captain America thing you hide behind. But magen has the sense of a personal bodyguard or a defender. God isn't just handing Abram a piece of equipment. He is saying, "I am the one standing between you and the world." It's an official seal of protection.
That is so comforting. But Abram isn't just accepting the compliment. He's basically like, "That's great, God, but what good is a shield or a reward when I don't even have a son to leave it to?" He's frustrated. He's looking at his reality. His OS says he's old and childless, and he's questioning the cloud signal.
He's got tent vision. Stephanie.
Tent vision? Explain that.
Well, God's response is so tactile. He doesn't just say, "Trust me, bro." He literally takes Abram outside the tent. He tells him, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if you even can." Researchers say that in the ancient world, without light pollution, Abram would have been looking at a literal ocean of white fire. God is telling him, "Stop looking at the four walls of your impossibility and look at the scale of my creative power."
And that is the verse that everyone quotes. And he believed the Lord, and he counted it to him as righteousness. It sounds so simple, but then things get weird. Abram asks for a sign, and instead of a rainbow or a thunderclap, God tells him to go animal shopping.
This is the blood path. And to understand this, we need our plain English translation for the Hebrew phrase, karath berit.
I remember berit means covenant or high-stakes contract. But what about karath?
Karath means to cut. In the Bible, you don't make a covenant, you cut one. We still use this idiom today when we say we're cutting a deal. But back then, it was literal. Abram takes these animals, splits them in two, and lines the halves up to create a literal path of blood in the middle.
John, this is the part where the modern seeker is going to be like, "Why? This is just gross."
I know. It's bizarre to us. But in the ancient Near East, this was the standard operating procedure for a legal contract. The two parties would walk through that path together. By walking between the halves, they were making a self-maledictory oath. That's a fancy way of saying, if I break this contract, may I end up just like these split animals.
So, it's a "may I die if I lie" situation? But here's the hidden gem that blew my mind when I was researching the heart of this chapter. The sun goes down, Abram falls into this dreadful darkness and a deep sleep, and he never takes the walk.
That's the system flip. Abram is ready to walk, but God puts him into a forced reboot sleep. And instead of Abram, this smoking firepot and flaming torch, which are symbols of God's glory, pass between the pieces alone.
Wait, so if the contract is broken, who pays the price?
In this modern mirror, think of it like this. Imagine you're taking out a massive mortgage. Usually you and the bank both sign, and if you don't pay, you lose the house. But here, the bank manager tells you to go to sleep. Then he signs the paperwork for both of you and says, if you miss a payment, I will pay the penalty myself. I am taking 100% of the liability for your side of the deal.
Oh, wow. So God is signing the blood path for both parties. He's saying, Abram, I know you're going to glitch. I know you're going to fail. And when you do, I'm the one who will be cut off to pay for it.
It's a literal foreshadowing of the cross. God is committing to die for the failures of the people he's choosing. It's the ultimate act of grace before we even get to the 10 Commandments.
But as we see in the very next chapter, Abram and Sarai don't exactly wait for the bank to do its thing. They decide to life hack the promise.
Oh, Genesis 16 is the original forbidden app. They try to help God keep his word by using Hagar as a surrogate, and it creates a toxic family system error that we are still feeling today.
We're going to talk about the slave girl shortcut and meet the God who sees the invisible people right after the break. You don't want to miss the El Roy moment. Stay with us. Okay, John, we're back. Before the break, we were looking at that incredible blood path in Genesis 15, where God basically signs a 100% liability mortgage for Abram while he's asleep. It's a beautiful picture of grace. But then we hit Genesis 16, and honestly, it feels like we've walked into a completely different podcast. We go from Abram the hero to Abram and Sarai the disaster.
It is a total facepalm moment. Seriously, Stephanie, it's the ultimate modern mirror. Think about when you're waiting for something, a promotion, a relationship, or even just a package in the mail. You get impatient. You think the system is lagging, so you decide to help it along. Genesis 16 is the story of the world's first forbidden life hack.
A life hack? Explain that. Because Sarai's plan involves a surrogate, not a faster way to peel an avocado.
It's a shortcut. God promised Abram an heir, but it's been 10 years. Sarai looks at her biology and says, the signal is dead. I'm not getting any younger. So she says to Abram, behold now, the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her. She's trying to hack the promise. She thinks if she provides an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar as a surrogate, she can build up her family through her.
And Abram just goes with it? Genesis 16 verse 2 says, and Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. John, why does that phrasing sound so familiar?
Because it is a literal system rerun of the fall. In the Garden of Eden, the woman gave to her husband, and he listened to her voice. Moses is showing us that this is a new fall. Abram and Sarai are doing exactly what Adam and Eve did. They're reaching out and grabbing something God hadn't given them yet because they don't trust his timing.
It's so relatable, though. We justify it. We say, I'm just doing God's work for him. But as soon as Hagar gets pregnant, the glitch happens.
Oh, the system error is massive. Hagar starts looking down on Sarai because she's pregnant and Sarai isn't. Sarai gets bitter and starts blaming Abram. She says, may the wrong done to me be on you. And Abram, instead of being the leader or the shield we talked about, basically just checks out. He's like, she's your servant, do whatever you want.
This is where my researcher and heart vibe starts hurting for Hagar. She's an Egyptian slave. She didn't ask for this shortcut. She was property in their eyes. And now she's being treated so harshly by Sarai that she literally runs away into the desert while she's pregnant. She's at her absolute breaking point.
She is the invisible person of the story. No one is looking at her heart. Sarai sees a means to an end, and Abram sees a problem to be ignored. But here is the hidden gem of Day 5. The angel of the Lord finds her by a spring of water. He doesn't go to the tent of the verified patriarch. He goes to the runaway slave in the middle of nowhere.
And he gives her a promise too, right? He tells her that her son, Ishmael, will also be a great nation. But it's the name she gives God that always gets me.
This is one of the most beautiful names in the Bible. El Roy.
Sounds like a neighbor of mine. Elroy. But John, we need the 5th grade rule translation for this one.
El Roy means the God who sees me. Hagar realizes that even when she was invisible to the people who were supposed to be the righteous ones, She was never off God's radar. God wasn't too busy with the big picture promise to see little old her in her trouble.
That is a modern mirror for anyone who feels overlooked today. You might feel like just a number at your job or an extra in someone else's social media post, but God has a personal, verified focus on you.
Exactly. He sees the blunders. He sees the messes we create when we try to life hack our way through life, and he meets us there with dignity. He tells Hagar to go back, but he promises to protect her. He makes a blessing out of a blunder.
I've made enough blunders this week to populate a whole continent, so I'm glad to hear that. But John, the story doesn't end with the shortcut. We still have Genesis 17, and this is where things get, well, they get hilarious.
Oh, it's the Arophel covenant.
Raffulf? Like rolling on the floor laughing?
Literally. Abram is 99 years old. It's been 13 years since Ishmael was born. And God shows up and says, okay, the baby is coming. And it's going to be from Sarai. And Abram? He doesn't build an altar this time. He falls on his face and starts laughing out loud.
Wait, I thought he was the father of faith? Is he laughing because he's happy or because he thinks God is joking?
He's laughing because it's comically unbelievable. He's thinking, a 100-year-old dad and a 90-year-old mom? Are you kidding me? It's the biblical version of LOL. But here's the kicker. God doesn't rebuke him. He just says, yep, and you're going to name him Isaac.
And Isaac means laughter, right?
Exactly. Every time Abram calls his son's name, he's going to be reminded of the moment he thought God's promise was too good to be true. It's God having a sense of humor about our doubt.
I love that. But God also gives them a system upgrade to their names in this chapter. Abram becomes Abraham, and Sarai becomes Sarah.
It's a literal identity refresh to match their verified status. We're going to dive into the meaning of those name changes and talk about the permanent branding God asks for, circumcision, right after this.
Permanent branding. That sounds like a long conversation. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
And that is exactly why you never, ever underestimate the power of a rebrand. Seriously, Stephanie, companies spend millions of dollars changing their logos or their names just to signal a new era. But God did it thousands of years ago with a couple of 99-year-olds and didn't charge a single consulting fee.
I don't think Abraham and Sarah were looking for a corporate rebrand, John. But welcome back, everyone. We are finishing up Day 5, and we're in Genesis 17. John, this chapter is a massive identity upgrade. Abraham is 99 years old. It's been 13 years since Ishmael was born, and God shows up again to remind him that the main promise is still on the table.
He's 99. I mean, at that point, you're just trying to remember where you put your sandals, and God shows up and reveals a new name for himself. He says, I am God Almighty.
El Shaddai. That's the Hebrew, right? We hear that in songs all the time, but what's the 5th grade rule translation for El Shaddai?
It means the all-sufficient God. It's God saying, Abram, I don't need your life hacks. I don't need your Egyptian shortcuts. I am enough to make this happen on my own power. And then he hits the rename button. Abram becomes Abraham, and Sarai becomes Sarah.
And these aren't just cool-sounding changes. There's a specific system upgrade happening in the meanings of these names?
Oh, big time. Abram meant High Father. It's a nice name, but it's individual. Abraham means father of a multitude. God is literally writing the big picture into his daily signature. And Sarah? Her old name, Sarai, might have meant quarrelsome or my princess, like she belonged only to Abraham. But her new name, Sarah, just means princess.
So she went from being his princess to being a princess for the whole world, the princess of multitudes. That is a serious promotion for a 90-year-old woman.
It's a total identity refresh. But this is where the chapter gets hilarious. God tells Abraham, I will bless her, and I will give you a son by her. She shall become nations. And Abraham? He doesn't fall on his face in worship this time. Well, he does fall on his face, but it's because he is LOL and Raffle.
Seriously. Genesis 17 verse 17 says, Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He's thinking, A 100-year-old dad and a 90-year-old mom? Is this a prank? It's the biblical version of rolling on the floor laughing?
It is the world's first unbelievable react. He finds the promise comically impossible. But here's the hidden gem. God doesn't get offended. He doesn't say, "How dare you laugh at my power?" He leans into the joke. He says, "Yep, and you're going to name the baby Isaac."
And Isaac means laughter, right?
Exactly. Every single time Abraham calls his son for dinner, he's going to have to say, "Hey, laughter, come eat." It's a permanent reminder of the moment Abraham thought God was being too much. It's God having the last laugh, but in the most gracious way possible.
I love that. It shows that God can handle our doubts, even when they come out as a snicker. But John, we have to talk about the permanent branding God asks for in this chapter: circumcision. For a modern seeker, this part of the Bible feels really weird and, honestly, a little invasive. Why did God want a physical mark in that specific place?
This is our modern mirror for the verified blue check mark.
Okay, explain that. How is a medical procedure a blue check mark?
Think about a brand. If you see a logo branded into a piece of leather or a verified seal on a profile, it means that object is owned and protected by the brand. God wanted a sign that was permanent, personal, and impossible to hide from yourself. He was saying, "I want my covenant, my high-stakes contract, to be written into your very flesh. You are verified as my people from the most intimate level of your life to the most public."
So it's a physical branding of the relationship. It says, "I belong to the all-sufficient God."
Exactly. And it wasn't just for Abraham. It was for every male in his household, including Ishmael, who was 13 at the time. It was a household upgrade. It showed that the promise wasn't just for one main character, but for the whole community.
You know, looking at these 3 chapters together, the blood path, the desert spring, and the name changes, it feels like God is just constantly pulling Abraham and Sarah out of their tent vision. He's showing them that he sees the invisible slave, he signs the contracts they can't keep, and he laughs along with their doubts while still keeping his word.
He's the El Roy who sees us, and the El Shaddai who provides for us. It's a complete covenant package.
Man, what a way to end day 5. It makes me want to look at my own identity and see where God might be trying to give me a name upgrade.
Boom. That's the heart of it.
That brings us to the end of our day 5 journey. Thank you everyone for joining us today. This whole blood and laughter section has been such a deep dive into how personal God gets with his promises.
We really appreciate you listening in and walking through these chapters with us. It's a wild ride, but we're making it easier to understand, one name change at a time.
Okay, John, it's time for the text message summary. Give us the 1-sentence takeaway for day 5.
Text this to your group chat. God is so committed to his promise that he takes all the risk, sees the invisible people we overlook, and laughs with us even when we doubt his impossible timing.
I'm sending that right now. Before you go, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Have you ever had a moment where God's timing felt so impossible that all you could do was laugh? We want to hear your stories.
We'll see you tomorrow for day 6, where the drama in Sodom hits a breaking point. Don't miss it.
That brings us to the end of our Bible in a day for today. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
We really appreciate you listening in and walking through these chapters with us.
Before you go, please take a second to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear how these modern mirrors are helping you see the text differently.
See you tomorrow for another exiting deep dive into the Word of the Lord. God bless.